Everybody, my bad about that. Sorry about the technical difficulties, guys. You know the same rules of engagement. Hit that like button as you come in, say where you're watching from. We're going to jump right back into the live stream. I'm going to start from the clips that we started from because it's part 2, and then I'm kind of going to jump around, not in the same order, just for new people that come in and people that come back in. Make sure you hit that like button for me. Make sure you say where you're watching from. Be interactive in the chat. Please don't disrespect any sub supporters or mods. That's the only thing that will get you censored or banned from the chat. Shout out to everyone watching and supporting. I appreciate you guys, and let's jump right back into the live stream.
Oh me, oh my, Kristi Noem got heckled by some protesters, and it's going viral. Love to see it. And articles of impeachment are being drafted for this woman. Republicans all over D.C. are getting heckled.
You suck!
James Comer earlier today was heckled by what he's calling a paid disruptor. No, it's just an American who's protesting your fascism.
Maxwell attended Chelsea Clinton's wedding, so obviously
the Cartoon Network called them. They want you to take your job back. Okay.
I'm trying to answer questions. Maxwell attended Chelsea Clinton's wedding, so obviously
the Cartoon Network called them. They want you to take your job back. Okay.
I'm trying to answer questions.
That's your retort.
Take your job back.
Paid protesters, so they tell him the Cartoon Network calls and they want him to take his job back. That's hilarious.
The Cartoon Network called them. They want you to take your job back. Okay.
The Cartoon Network called and they want you to take your job back. Ooh! Ow!
I'm trying to answer questions. We've got a paid disruptor here. So this is, I feel like the Clintons have initiated the war room. The press yesterday was pretty fair, I think, about Bill Clinton not coming. Because again, this was a bipartisan.
All right, what they're trying to do is get Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton in to be interrogated by the House over Epstein. And of course, Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton said, go fuck yourself. Ron Filipkowski said this, so smart. I'm actually very happy for James Comer and House Republicans to establish the precedent that former presidents should be hauled before congressional committees to be questioned about Epstein pardons and other matters. I agree. Like, sure. Okay. Bring them in because guess what? There's a lot of people we can bring in too. Now, Thomas Massie was also heckled yesterday, and the difference is he actually posted it because he was like, you think this is ambushing me?
How's it going?
Thank you. So, Congressman, in the last 2 weeks, you were...
So I'm not going to lie. This was a pretty boss statement that Thomas Massie made. I love the way that he responded. This reporter challenges him, but he talks about how 91% of the time he votes Republican and what he does the other 9% when he doesn't.
repeated AOC's talking points in Venezuela and Jasmine Crockett.
How's it going?
Thank you. So, Congressman, in the last 2 weeks, you repeated AOC's talking points in Venezuela and Jasmine Crockett has retweeted you. When will you change your party affiliation to Democrat?
I thought you knew. I vote with Republicans 91% of the time. And the 9% I don't, they're taken up for pedophiles, starting another war, or bankrupting our country.
I mean, that is kind of a baller response. Much better than, how does it work for the Cartoon Network?
That's crazy. He said the other 9% of the time I don't. They're either taken up for pedophiles, starting wars, or... Dude, I can't believe it. Or bankrupting our country. Like, that was a pretty gangster response. I didn't expect him to come off like that. You know, and he was very brazen in the way that he did it. So shout out to Thomas Massie.
All right. I'm also just throwing this in here because I think we forgot about this, but Donald Trump was called Hitler to his face. And we all know he doesn't like to be called pedophile president or Hitler.
Trump is the Hitler of our time! Free DC! Free Palestine! Trump is the Hitler of our time! Free DC! Free Palestine! Trump is the Hitler of our time! Free DC! Free Palestine! Trump
I mean, this was 3 months ago, and I kind of feel like if this were today, they would have been shot. Like, I think that's where we are now, is they wouldn't have been asked to leave. They would have been arrested or shot. Now, Kristi Noem wishes that she had a gun, I bet. They would have been...
Free Palestine! Trump is a Hitler of our time! What do you want your legacy?
I mean, this was 3 months ago, and I kind of feel like if this were today, they would have been shot. Like, I think that's where we are now, is they wouldn't have been asked to leave. They would have been arrested or shot.
Come on, Keith. I think that's a little overzealous. I mean, I don't know if they would have been shot. He's probably referring to the violence that he's seeing between some of the ICE agents and the protesters, but maybe arrested, depending. I mean, as long as it's peaceful. You know, I said this time and time again, like, dude, when you're throwing ice rocks and you're destroying ICE vehicles, you know, and you're like pounding on their windows and breaking their windows, that's not a peaceful protest. So it's like, I don't even understand why people are saying some of the stuff they're saying is kind of annoying. It's like, there's a difference. That's actually a violent protest, right? Because you're destroying property and government property at that. That's no longer a peaceful protest once things start being destroyed and people start getting hurt.
Now, Kristi Noem wishes that she had a gun, I bet, when this happened.
Kristi Noem, any comment on the detention centers that look very much like concentration camps? You run concentration camps while you're taking a photo op with a baby. You're running concentration camps while you're taking a photo op with a baby. Shame. Have you no shame? Have you no shame? Have you no shame? You run open air. There's nothing worse than someone who uses a baby as a political tool while taking babies away from families. You cannot use a baby as a political tool while you take away the rights of families. How dare you? How dare you? Kristi Noem, how dare you? How dare you? How dare you have the audacity to hold a child as you separate children from their families? You have separated numerous families.
Here's the thing that kills me, right? I think these people really need to, you know what? Shout out to, I'll do it right here. Cyrus Snape, shout out to you. Thanks for being interactive in the chat. Try to read a book about German history. Because when I see people put Trump next to Hitler, sometimes I'm like, are you good? Like, it's like, dude, the guy could be a lot of things. I get it. And a lot of people, you had 75 million people vote for Kamala Harris. So I said this before. It's obvious that everyone did not want Donald Trump to be president. But I mean, Hitler, I'm like, come on, guys. Like, I don't think people know a lot about Hitler when they're putting somebody like Trump. Like, honestly, I feel like Hitler could make Trump blush. I'm just saying. So I just think it's interesting that people put him next to Hitler.
Families, you should have shame. 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 Kristi Noem, have you no shame?
It's actually crazy to get yelled at repeatedly and to just ignore it. It's like people who live in their own filth and don't even see it. You know, no judgment, I guess, but I couldn't live like that. I also couldn't live like this. And this is, in its own way, living your own filth. When Kristi Noem is getting yelled at by someone for the crimes against humanity she is actively committing, and she doesn't even bother her. She can't even bother her. Look, at least Donald Trump, when he was being called Hitler, was like, huh? What? Kristi Noem, it doesn't even impact her. Now, this might, though. Kristi Noem, her impeachment is moving forward. And there's a full list of sponsors now. Why this matters. This might, though. Kristi Noem, her impeachment is moving forward. And there's a full list of sponsors now. Why this matters. Representative Robin Kelly, an Illinois Democrat, introduced articles of impeachment against Noem after U.S. immigration and customs.
Okay, so yeah, that's where we get the 50 Democrats from. So yeah, 50 Democrats so far. That's why. So Keith thinks it should be a lot more than that, right? He's like, only 50 think this so far. And that's just based off of, you know, just what we've seen in the ICE video, what some people are saying about what she then delivered after the incident took place versus what everyone saw on camera. So yeah, it says it. Kristi Noem's impeachment moves forward.
Customs Enforcement, ICE, agent fatally shot Renee Nicole Good, a 37-year-old woman. Of course, we know that. The shooting was drawn scrutiny. here's what to know. In total, at least 50 House Democrats have signed on to the articles, according to a list released by Kelly's office. The list was first reported by Axios. Her office told the outlet that more Democrats may sign on letter. I hope so. 50? 50? I think there's more than 200 House Democrats. Only 1/4, a quarter, 25% of House Democrats have signed on to articles of impeachment against Kristi Noem. That's actually absurd. It's offensive. Where are the fighters? Where are the fucking fighters? You know, I was asked if I was gonna go. I was asked to go to a thing. I'm not gonna blow up anyone's spot. Okay, I'm not gonna blow up anyone's spot. I was asked to go to an event where there'd be some members of Congress, and they were like, "Do you have any questions for them before you go?" And I was like, 1, I'm not gonna go. 2, I do have a question for you, and it's why isn't the Democratic Party doing anything about the fascism that's literally here in our country? What is it going to take? All they know how to do is tweet. And I said, so I don't think you want me to go to your event. And they were like, yeah, probably for the best. And they're like, maybe we can do something in the future. Yeah. But that's kind of where I'm at. Is like, where the fuck is the action? I'm happy this is at least something. But 50 House Democrats? That's it? 50? 50. When we see ICE doing what it's doing to Americans in the street, and only 50 House Democrats say, yeah, I think we should probably remove the person who's letting it happen. Goes on to say here, the articles of impeachment may face an uphill battle, of course, because the GOP-controlled House of Representatives, Republican leadership has still remained supportive of Kristi Noem and the administration overall. However, immigration remains a maze. Goes on to say here, the articles of impeachment street. And only 50 House Democrats say, yeah, I think we should probably remove the person who's letting it happen. Goes on to say here, the articles of impeachment may face an uphill battle, of course, because the GOP-controlled House of Representatives, Republican leadership has still remained supportive of Kristi Noem and the administration overall. However, immigration remains a major issue.
Yeah, I think it will be an uphill battle. And of course, immigration remains a major issue, but I know overall she's gonna have most support from the GOP. When I say most, it's like even if it's dwindling, like let's say out of 100%, I feel like she still would land somewhere at 91%. And it's like, I know some people are probably saying that's high. We could drop it down to 85. But just if we just look at the amount of people that voted for President Trump and how the biggest thing he ran on was, enforcing, the immigration laws, then yeah, I could see exactly why that would be an uphill battle. I can't say that I actually think she's going to get impeached. I don't know if I believe that. That, for me, right now, that seems a bit far-fetched.
Ahead of the midterms, Democrats may have more authority to advance such efforts if they were to take control of Congress in November. I just want fighters. I just want people who are going to fight. Now, Donald Trump, this is all impacting him. His support with Gen Z is just super underwater. It was plus 10 in 2025, and now it's dropped to negative 32. As Harrington says here, good.
That's incredible. You don't have to hook and retain a viewer because the person has to watch the entirety of
It's gracious.
New this morning. What about the kids? Perhaps no group swung more in the 2024 election than younger voters. They were decisive in Donald Trump's win. We've got new data this morning on what they think now. With us now, CNN Chief Data Analyst Harry Enton. There have been some pretty big shifts here.
Yeah, these guys are swingers. That's what we're talking about here. Take a look here. Generation Z. John like that. Gen Z, party ID margin, Dems versus the GOP. In 2024, look at this. It was just a 6-point margin between the Democrats and Republicans. Democrats just led by 6 points. Very small. Remember, Donald Trump did very well for a Republican candidate amongst the youngest part of the electorate. But take a look here. 2025. Hello. A huge widening of the lead for Democrats among Generation Z, tripling their lead on party identification from 6 all the way up to 20. That was, in fact, the largest shift, considerably more so than any other group. Yes, there was a shift in the overall electorate, but this more than double the shift that we saw among the electorate.
I mentioned this earlier on the live stream. Like, dude, to me, amongst Gen Z in itself, I'm sorry, but just some of the things I watch with like Nick Fuentes, Clavicular, Sneeko, like, dude, this 14-point shift is like diabolical to me because some of the reasons why I think this shift is happening, right? Like, you literally have Clavicular saying things like, because Gavin Newsom totally mocks J.D. Vance, that's why he would vote for Gavin Newsom. Now, I get it. The younger generation, they look at it like, who wants a fat president, right? That's literally what Clavicular said. He said, who wants a fat president? That's why he wouldn't vote for J.D. Vance, right? He feels like Gavin Newsom is more handsome, right? He feels like because Gavin Newsom has, a wife of European descent, he's a better choice. So when I look at some of the things I've been watching Gen Z talking about as to why they would want to vote for someone, it's like, yeah, I can see why we would see a 14-point swing positively in the Democrats' direction.
I guess that's somewhat hopeful, right? Is that giving you hope? It's a little hopeful.
March towards the Democratic Party.
Okay, we said it was decisive for Donald Trump. How have opinions shifted toward Donald Trump among this group?
Okay, so this, in some ways, you might say this, this doesn't necessarily apply to Donald Trump. It absolutely does apply to Donald Trump. He has just fallen off a cliff when it comes to Generation Z. Look at this. Donald Trump's net approval rating in February of 2025. John said it right. Wow.
This was actually a month into the administration.
This was a month into the administration. He was at plus 10 points in the net approval rating. He was on the right side of the ledger. Look at this. Falling off that cliff. That is a drop of 42 points to negative 32 points on the net approval rating.
I'll take
that net approval rating is not shocking to me, if I'm honest with you. Yeah, I just wanted to check that, but also being mindful that it is CNN reporting. But that approval rating, if it is indeed true, that's not shocking to me, right? Because if you look at a lot of the protesters we see the older generation out there, but there's a lot of younger generation out there, right? There's a lot of Gen Z protesting. I've already watched documentaries of Gen Z basically following, ICE vehicles around so they can run to neighborhoods before the vehicles and kind of like warn the people that they're coming. So yeah, Gen Z is pretty active in this area when it comes to protesting. The ones who did not specifically vote for Donald Trump, they care a lot about this. So this is not like that swing in that direction for Gen Z is not shocking to me at all. All right, guys, let's move to the next clip. Kristi Noem.
Did you know that linen is the only fabric that bacteria cannot thrive on? This is one of the reasons Jesus.
I wrote a column, posted on Bill O'Reilly.
All right, shout out to Mr. Bill O'Reilly, a channel favorite here. We react and watch Bill often. He's covering how states are rebelling against Trump and also why he thinks there's a chance that the Republicans could lose in the midterms, but why he ultimately thinks the Democrats will lose if they keep a certain, let's just say, perspective that they have. I thought he did a good job covering this one. Let's take a listen.
.com filed it on Saturday called The Rebellion. So there are 8 states that are rebelling against the federal government's immigration law. I will list them in a moment. Okay? And what does that mean? It just means they refuse to obey the law. That's a rebellion. This is the sanctuary city movement, but it's more than that. Okay. So on Saturday, you saw one of those states, Minnesota, host a demonstration against the ICE shooting of last week. A couple of thousand people showed up, and there's nothing wrong with people protesting. That's what we do in America when we don't think something is wrong. But this protest was sponsored by a far-left group called the Minnesota Immigration Rights and Action Committee. This was an ideological protest, not an organic protest, okay? It was organized exclusively by the far left to seek people's presence on the far left. That's what this was all about. Okay. Authorities in Minneapolis arrested 29 people, and they were throwing chunks of ice and other debris at the local cops. Feds had no presence here. So a local demonstration. All right? And one police officer was hurt. That's the who, what, when, where, and why of the rally. The people who attended the rally are in one category. They are leftists who hate the Trump administration. Roll the tape.
It was another instance of someone in our city being killed, being murdered by law enforcement, and I'm ready to be done with it.
I love my community, I love my city, and I hate what's happening to it with people who frankly aren't from here coming in and telling us who should be here. And when it comes down to loving my neighbor, I'm just going to love my neighbor.
Here's ICE riding through our neighborhoods, destroying families, destroying businesses, tearing our communities apart, and they're not being held accountable. And that's why we're here. We're out here to demonstrate, to try to hold them accountable.
Okay, fine. But that's not what really that is. That is an open border. We don't want any law enforcement to confront undocumented migrants. We don't want it. You let them in, they do what they want. That's what these people stand for. But they're never honest about it. That shouldn't be a surprise. 75 million people voted for Kamala Harris, who supported President Biden's open border policy and didn't want any law enforcement against people, foreign nationals, who came into the country illegally. Kamala Harris wouldn't have done anything. Would have continued on the open border and let people just wave on it. Okay? 75 million Americans voted for her. A lot of folks. So of course you're going to have that. Now, the 8 states in open rebellion are these: California, Oregon, Washington State, Colorado, Minnesota, Illinois, Massachusetts, and New Jersey. New York and Vermont are right on the edge there. I don't have them on there because there's a dialogue, at least, going on with Washington, but you can put them on there. And when you have 10 states, it's basically telling the federal government, we're not going to obey your law. You have what they had before the Civil War. It's exactly the same thing. And I make the point in the column that from 1830 to 1860, 30 years, southern states said, we're not going to obey whatever you say. And we're not just talking slavery, we're talking tariffs, we're talking almost everything. Andrew Jackson slapped them down. Okay?
Now, here's what I think is hilarious, because if you guys know anything about Bill O'Reilly, he's done this historically. I've seen one in the past where he's had an episode where he's compared Trump to Andrew Jackson and Joe Biden to James Buchanan. And I just think it's hilarious, right? Because Andrew Jackson is probably historically known as one of the most overzealous presidents that we've ever had. And if you know his history and what he went through with Congress, then you know. And then James Buchanan, well, he has the history, he has the reputation of being one of the worst presidents in American history because he allowed the Civil War to take place. So I just think it's hilarious the people that Bill O'Reilly compare our last 2 presidents to. And I mean, when you kind of take a look at it in comparison, it makes sense.
Okay. But then we had a series of weak presidents like Franklin Pierce and James Buchanan who let the South rise in ferocity. And then we had the Civil War. That was a rebellion against the federal government. The only other time in our history we've seen this was during the Vietnam War. But that was a populist uprising. Started out ideological, but then the war got out of control because of Lyndon Johnson's incompetency and deceit. And the American people, and that just cut across almost every barrier, said enough of this. And the demonstrations happened. And violence happened. Kent State, National Guard, and a lot of other areas. Now, the federal government at this point has a couple of obligations, has to enforce the law, has to. But they can de-escalate violent confrontations. So if ICE agents see that there's a person like Ms. Good impeding their investigation with an automobile, the vehicle, then you de-escalate that. You arrest her later, which they could have done easily. All right? You don't up it, because if there's a lot more violence, then the Trump administration is going to lose the country. It's going to. You got to de-escalate.
Yeah, and I think Bill's touching on a good point here when he says that if there's a lot more violence, because this is not what people want to see. Like, yeah, sure, there might be a mandate for immigration, but we don't want to see dead people, especially dead Americans. And then it's just, it just wasn't good for the country. You know, you got a mother here. It's not good. You got some people saying, oh, well, she was a far left lesbian. And then you got people who are far right, like, oh, because she was a lesbian, she deserved to get shot in the face. So it just wasn't good. So I can agree with Bill here when he says, you know, President Trump really has to get control of the volatility when it comes to ICE and the protesting. Like, it's not a good thing. And I could see where he says that the Republicans could lose the country if the violence increases. I could totally see that.
In any kind of potential violent situation. Now, that doesn't mean if the ICE agents are attacked that they can't fight back. They should fight back. I'm not saying that. But if you can lessen potential violence, you have to do that. And that's not just me saying that. That's every law enforcement agency in the country has that in their manual. Okay? You don't have to use lethal force. You don't. Get it later. Do it later. Now, that's number one. Number two, 77 million Americans voted for Donald Trump. And that vote needs to be respected. It's not respected by the left. Okay, it's not. And there's probably a vice versa on that, too. But when 77 million Americans say we want immigration law enforced, you got to enforce it. So the Trump administration is not doing anything wrong, theoretically. Okay? But the ICE commanders have got to know that this is a volatile situation. Because if it gets worse, the Democrats are going to win the midterms. And they're making their stand not on the economy now, because the economy is pretty good. They're making this.
Now, Bill makes a good point here, right? Where he talks again about if the violence keeps increasing, that the Republicans can lose the country. But he's going to make a good point here about how Democrats can lose it, right? Because he says here, right, they're not making their stand on the economy, right, in his opinion, because the economy is pretty good. He's saying that they're going to make their stand on ICE. They're going to make their stand on immigration. And he actually thinks it's a foolish stance to make because he believes eventually the American people are going to start to see what's going on in Minnesota for what it is, right? Now, this is Bill O'Reilly. This is his opinion on this. He feels like eventually the American people are going to see that these sanctuary cities are just willing to break the law and they just don't want to comply and they don't want to be complicit. And at the end of the day, they're the ones causing problems. Do I think that there's a chance that could happen? Well, I mean, out of 8 to 10 states, I believe that some of them might come to this conclusion, but I believe it's a great chance that all of them are not. Right? So that's why I think right now the midterms looks very interesting.
Stand on this. This is the hill they're standing on. Illegal immigration. I think that's foolish. I believe most Americans see this Minnesota stuff for what it is. A provocation of the federal government. A rebellion against social order. I believe most of us see that. And the Democratic Party is standing opposed to that. It's going to hurt it. Particularly because it's a weak party with no leader. But if you are calling ICE Gestapo and you are supporting open borders and no supervision of foreign nationals, and you won't even cooperate in the 10 states that I mentioned, with criminal migrant investigations, you wouldn't even cooperate then, America's going to walk away from you, in my opinion.
I thought it was funny when he said that because technically speaking, I played something on live stream yesterday where Joe Rogan was saying that ICE is like the modern day Gestapo because they're walking around. He's like, are we gonna really get to the point where like we're walking around and we're saying to people, do you have your papers? Like, do you have your papers? So I just thought it was very interesting that Bill O'Reilly said that. Because it really was. I'm not gonna say it wasn't reference to what Joe Rogan said, but I felt like it had some congruency there.
Summing up, the federal government has to enforce immigration law, but it has to be done a little bit differently now. Situation is just too volatile. We don't want dead people. But we do want people held accountable. And that's the memo. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube.
All right, shout out to Bill O'Reilly. I really did think he had a great take there. You know, at the end of the day, we have to just sit back and watch what's going to happen. President Trump have to get a grip on, you know, some of the volatility we're seeing between ICE and the protesters, especially in Minnesota. But we could essentially say everywhere because this could be pretty dangerous for the Republicans as the midterms approach. Right? And I'm just saying that in the sense of just looking at both sides of it. It's like, I think he hit the nail right on the head where he goes, if the violence increases, the Republicans are going to lose the midterms. They're going to lose the people. And if the Democrats only stand on the violence between ICE and protesters, then they won't win either. So I thought he just had a great take on that. Let's jump to the next clip, guys. All right, we're going to jump over now to CBS News. They cover division over Greenland. So we see the Prime Minister of Denmark have his remarks after meeting with, I believe it was J.D. Vance. I thought it was interesting how they're calling this meeting so peculiar. I'm like, I wonder what's going on there. But yeah, he had his own remarks. Of course, their main point was that they are interested with making a deal with the United States, but they still want to keep their land. They are not interested in giving up territory. So let's take a listen.
President Trump is doubling down on his demands for U.S. control of Greenland. Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with the foreign ministers of Greenland and Denmark. That NATO ally has controlled the island since 1814. But President Trump insists the U.S. needs it for national security. Nancy Cordes is at the White House with the latest. Nancy, good morning to you. What can you tell us?
Good morning. This was a meeting for the Danes and the Greenlanders to basically look at the vice president face to face and tell him that they want to keep their land. They want to work with President Trump, but that they don't plan to give up territory. That was not good enough, however, for President Trump.
The president has made his view clear, and we have a different position.
That was Denmark's foreign minister after a highly unusual meeting with Vice President Vance and the Secretary of State. Denmark requested the meeting in response to mounting threats from President Trump about his plans to take over Greenland, which is a longtime Danish territory.
We are going to do something on Greenland, whether they like it or not.
In the meeting, the Danes reiterated that the Arctic territory is not for sale, though they welcome a U.S. presence there. At one point, the U.S. had 10,000 troops stationed in Greenland, but the numbers have dwindled to 200.
We want to work with our American friends and allies, but it must be a respectful cooperation and it must respect the red lines.
Trump has coveted the massive territory with a tiny population since his first term. He now says Greenland is vital to the Golden Dome defense system he wants to build.
If we don't go in, Russia's going to go in and China's going to go in. And there's not a thing that Denmark can do about it, but we can do everything about it.
Lawmakers from both sides of the aisle seem unconvinced.
The United States is the one that actually has a military presence in Greenland already.
Denmark, like the U.S., is a member of NATO and a U.S. ally for more than 200 years.
I've yet to hear from this administration a single thing we need from Greenland that the sovereign people is not ready and willing to grant us.
Danish officials have rejected Trump's claims that they are leaving Greenland vulnerable to threats from China and Russia. But in a bid to head off those claims, they did announce that they are stepping up military exercises in Greenland. And in a...
Now, this is necessary, right? Because I thought it was hilarious. President Trump did a small press conference. I believe it was in front of Air Force One. And he said to them, do you know what they have for military? Like, they have sled dogs. And I was cooked when he said this. I was like, dude, I can't believe he just said that. I mean, of course they have more than that, but that is a form of transportation they have mainly in the northern part of Greenland, because the leader goes on record to say that's the only way you can really travel, in that particular region or area of Greenland. But I just thought it was funny that President Trump was like, they have 2 sled dogs. That's all that they have. So I think it's hilarious. There's a reason why we see here where Greenland's stepping up, like, their military security and their training and things like that. At one point, one of the leaders even made a reference to the sled dogs. And that's how I know that they do, in fact, use them. And that's because there's a specific part of Greenland where that is really the only way that they get around. They use the sled dogs to do that.
A show of solidarity, French President Emmanuel Macron announced he's going to be sending troops too.
All right, Nancy, thank you very much.
In the middle of war, sometimes all it takes is one hot meal, one plate, one smile, one child.
All right, shout out to Pondering Politics, a channel favorite. We react to him on the channel often. You guys go check his channel out when you get a chance. White House press secretary has a screaming meltdown. Let's take a listen.
He clarified, you want me to give my opinion? She says yes. As the November midterms rapidly approach and Donald Trump's approval and polling precipitously plummet, Carolyn Leavitt just wrapped up her most disastrous White House press briefing in recent memory. And what sets this one truly apart is Leavitt started to scream and rant at a reporter after she asked that reporter to give his opinion, and he complied. It is a shocking meltdown even by Leavitt standards. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, folks, we're going to skip to the punchline here, and I want you to see Leavitt lose her shit at a reporter or at a member of the media. She asks him his opinion. He clarifies, you want me to give my opinion? She says yes, he gives it, and she freaks the hell out. And then I want you to see afterwards the extra irony and lack of self-awareness on top of this. Can't wait to show you.
Thanks, Caroline. Earlier, you were just defending ICE agents generally, and earlier on, Secretary Noem spoke to the media, and she said, among other things, that they are doing everything correctly. 32 people died in ICE custody last year. 170 U.S. citizens were detained by ICE, and Renee Good was shot in the head and killed by an ICE agent. How does that equate to them doing everything correctly?
Now, perfectly reasonable question, right? You're saying ICE is perfect. That's what you're saying. When you're saying that ICE is doing literally everything correctly, you are saying that they are perfect. They've made no mistakes. They've screwed up nothing. And given the number of wrongly detained people, the number of people who died in their custody, the person who just shot, and given the polling is that the American people don't support ICE and they don't agree with you that ICE is doing everything correctly, how do you square the circle? Perfectly reasonable question. Leavitt doesn't like it.
Why was Renee Good unfortunately and tragically killed?
Are you asking me my opinion? Because an ICE agent acted recklessly and totally unjustified.
She asked for his opinion.
Because an ICE agent acted recklessly and totally unjustified.
Okay, now this is the reporter, right? So the White House press secretary asked him, why do you think that Mrs. Good was unfortunately killed? And he says, because an ICE agent acted, what? right? We've been saying it on a live stream already. I said it. Now we watched this. I have a coworker. Shout out to my coworker that watches my live stream. He even reached out to me like the other day when we were at work. Literally, and he's like, yo, bro, just to let you know, frame by frame, the ICE agent is innocent. And I'm just like, come on, man, this can't be life. But it's cool, right? Because I said here on this channel, we watch both sides. So it is what it is. We're not affected by opinions over here, right? They're like underwear. They can change. It doesn't matter. There's no need to be offended by that. But I just thought it was very interesting because this reporter, he gives his opinion and he's like, the ICE agent, the way he reacted is unjustifiable. Now, she's literally about to lose it. But here's the thing. We've said it on the live stream before. Could it be that the ICE agent was being a little bit trigger happy, right? I can see it from both sides. So I had some people saying, no, Q, look, he almost got ran over. Look at her wheels. Look at the direction we've looked at everything, right? And I said, dude, I could see fight or flight in both of these individuals. I can see how both of these individuals were afraid, and one flight, and one fight. I could just... Listen, dude, I don't know. Call it because I've been in therapy for the better half of a decade. It just makes sense to me, right? So do I necessarily think that the lady deserved to die? No, of course not. But at the same time, can I also see why the ICE agent might have been fearful? Yeah, of course. So that's why we watch both sides over here, because we got the left and the right lying to us. So all we can do is watch both sides and just put everything together. I just think it's hilarious how she asks for his opinion. And he talks about the ICE agent doing an unjustifiable killing. And look at her response to this.
She asked for his opinion. Oh, and you can see she is ready to pop off. Here we go. Brace yourselves.
Are you asking me my opinion? Because an ICE agent acted recklessly and totally unjustifiable.
Oh, okay. So you're a biased reporter with a left-wing opinion.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah, because you're a left-wing hack. You're not a reporter. You're posing in this room as a journalist. And it's so clear by the premise of your question. And you and the people in the media who have such biases but fake like you're a journalist, you shouldn't even be sitting in that seat. But you're pretending like you're a journalist, but you're a left-wing activist. And the question that you just raised and your answer proves your bias. You should be reporting on the facts. You should be reporting on the cases. Do you have the numbers of how many American citizens were killed at the hands of illegal aliens who ICE is trying to remove from this country? I bet you don't. I bet you didn't even read up on those stories. I bet you never even read about Lake and Riley or Jocelyn Nungray or all of the innocent Americans who were killed at the hands of illegal aliens in this country. And the brave men and women of ICE are doing everything in their power to remove those heinous individuals and make our communities safer. And shame on people like you in the media who have a crooked view and have a biased view and pretend like you're a real honest journalist.
So she was triggered, she was pissed, and what's funny is he provided facts, he provided figures. They were just facts and figures that cut against her narrative. Now, she's free to say, listen, you can criticize ICE for this, that, and the other thing, but what about all the other times that ICE gets it right? That would be a plausible spin I would expect a Republican administration to offer. But you said they're doing everything right, which means they've done nothing wrong. But the facts show they have done things wrong. They have fucked up. And he did come armed with facts. You just had no refutation. Notice how she doesn't debunk his statistics. Notice how she doesn't say, actually, those statistics are false, and here are the real statistics. Here are why these statistics and figures are false. She can't deal with the facts and figures. Well, facts don't care about your feelings, Carolyn. And the fact that you lose every debate, well, that's not because you're stupid per se. It's because you're evil and you're backing an evil man. You're choosing to be a spokeswoman for an evil regime, and it puts you in these awkward positions. But the American people are with that reporter, not with you. Poll after poll after poll shows the American people are fed up with ICE and everything surrounding it. So you're losing. Sorry, just flatly. Getting your ass kicked in the political sphere. Now, what I find so funny about that, besides how triggered she was, is for her to rant at that guy. Now, I'm blanking on his name. I think his name is Niall. I almost said Niall Farage, but that's not it. Niall Strange or something like that. He's on a show on The Hill. Okay? But what's interesting is she asked his opinion. You want my opinion? Here's my opinion, okay, as a person. Now, you might say, well, the reporter shouldn't have answered that way. But for her to say he's a left-wing hack and shouldn't be in that chair, I want you to see from the very same press conference whom Carolyn Leavitt gave the first question to and an extra special seat. in the press briefing room.
I'm surprised it took us a year to get you here, but I'm very happy to see you. I know you have a new podcast, The Riley Gaines Show, and so thank you. And you brought a beautiful baby, and you're loved.
So that is right-wing activist Riley Gaines. She was given the special media seat. She was given the first question. She, of course, lobbed a softball question to the administration because she is a right-wing hack. And Carolyn Levitt's okay with that. Riley Gaines apparently can be in the room, but not anyone who disagrees with the administration. Riley Gaines is a journalist. Yeah, she can ask questions, but not this guy from the Hill. And again, he didn't come out the gate saying, you know, ICE murdered her. Renee Good, that is. You asked for his opinion, and he gave it. So anyway, she lost her shit. Now let's wind the clock back and see some of the other lowlights of this particular press briefing.
The president has already delivered. Tuesday's CPI report marked the latest confirmation that President Trump has defeated Joe Biden's inflation crisis. Since President Trump took office,
he has not defeated the inflation crisis. Inflation has continued to remain elevated on his watch. It actually reversed the momentum that he inherited from the Biden administration. Inflation was coming down. It's since reversed and came up under the Trump administration and is effectively where it was when Biden left office. So no, you did not actually do anything. You've reversed the momentum, you've ticked it up, then it came back down to basically where it was when Biden left office. Nobody's giving you credit for that, which is again why your polling on the economy and inflation are atrocious.
Purchases. Number two, the great healthcare plan will stop sending big insurance companies billions in extra taxpayer-funded subsidy payments and instead send that money directly to eligible Americans to allow them to buy the health insurance of their choice.
This is a disastrous decision. This is apparently, Trump is apparently going to run with his new proposed health insurance plan to basically just give the subsidies directly to the American people. And again, no guarantee that they would cover people's insurance, no guarantee that it would cover. This comes up, the price hikes that have increased as a consequence of Trump allowing the Obamacare subsidies to lapse. So think about that. What Trump is proposing is giving an unknown amount of money directly to the American people to cover their health insurance after he allowed President Biden's extended Obamacare subsidies to elapse, which increased the coverage of health or increased the premium of health insurance. So he's going to send you money to pay for a health insurance premium that is more expensive because of him, and you won't even know if it covers the distance. But again, that topic comes up.
I would highly recommend you guys look more into Tony Robbins if you've not already. 100%. And we're going to link down below all of the things that...
Another clip.
Mayor, thanks, Carolyn. The president says he wants money to go directly to Americans so they can buy their own insurance. How exactly would this work? And can the president assure Americans that this will be enough to cover their health care costs?
So this is the second principle in the president.
To Americans, so they can...
That is more expensive because of him, and you won't even know if it covers the distance. But again, that topic comes up. Here's another clip.
Mayor, thanks, Carolyn. The president says he wants money to go directly to Americans so they can buy their own insurance. How exactly would this work? And can the president assure Americans that this will be enough to cover their health care costs?
So this is the second principle in the president's health care plan, lowering insurance premiums specifically and ensuring that that money is going directly back to the American people and cutting the kickbacks that then raise those premiums. So this plan, once put into legislative text and passed by Congress and sent to the president's desk, will stop sending big insurance companies billions of an extra taxpayer-funded subsidy payments and instead send that money directly to eligible Americans to allow them to buy the health insurance of their choice through, you may have heard it be referred to as health savings accounts. Whether that ends up being the actual name of such accounts, we'll have to see. Again, Congress and the White House are going to work together to put this plan into action. And then secondly, the Great Healthcare Plan will fund a cost-sharing reduction program for healthcare plans, which will save taxpayers at least $36 billion and reduce the most common Obamacare plan premiums by over 10%, and that's according to the congressional budget.
10%. Wow. What's interesting is health insurance premiums have doubled, tripled, and quadrupled as a consequence of Trump allowing the Obamacare subsidies to elapse. So, yeah, maybe we'll save 10% on health insurance. A health insurance premium that you effectively doubled, tripled, and quadrupled for millions of Americans? That sure sounds like a friggin' ripoff.
20 million Americans in recent weeks have seen their health care costs soar. Can you...
Yeah, and a lot of people this way. That's why, pondering politics. He's not the only person. Like there a lot of people are like, oh, okay, well, this definitely sounds like something where the American people are about to get screwed, but most people aren't paying attention, so they don't know what's about to happen.
You assure them that if this plan is put in place, that they will be able to cover those costs.
If this plan is put in place, every single American who has health care in the United States will see lower costs as a result. They will see more transparency.
Lower costs? This is... The health insurance premiums were at a certain level because of the Obamacare subsidies. Trump allowed those Obamacare subsidies to lapse. He refused to work with Democrats. Democrats were begging him, please don't do this. Not only is it bad politics for you, it's going to hurt not only liberals, it's going to hurt many of your own supporters. So Trump allowed those Obamacare subsidies to elapse. Those Obamacare subsidies, because they were no longer there, caused Obamacare and many others, health insurance as well, because it's a market system, Obamacare to skyrocket the monthly premium because of Trump. And now she's saying, okay, well, if this passes, people will see cost savings. But she talked about 10%. So again, imagine Trump takes health insurance premiums here. This is where they were. He allows them to go to here. Then she says, oh, we'll make it cheaper. That's not what was asked. What was asked is, would you cover the cost? Will your plan effectively take it back to where it was or lower?
Right. Well, what is what you guys about to do? Is it going to be able to actually help the American people? Like, are people actually going to be able to afford their expenses when it comes to health insurance, right? When it comes to the health care, that's what's being asked, right? Is what you're about to do, is it productive or is it going to hurt? And that's what I'm saying. Like, the question is not being answered. And that's the reason why I chose this clip, because I thought that he was one of the few people that caught this really, really well. So shout out to Pondering Politics.
Lower. And all she said is, no, we'll get it lower. Well, 10%? It's still a ripoff. You're screwing over the American people. Yeah, we allowed your health insurance premiums to double. But we then took that double health insurance premium and we reduced it by 10%. That means you're still paying 90% more than what you were. You see what I'm saying? They're screwing you. They're screwing you. This plan is so friggin' stupid. But it is the Trump administration, so we shouldn't be entirely surprised. I will say, speaking of shitty math, and by the way, not a math guy, but better than this administration, Carolyn Leavitt runs with an oldie but a goodie.
Small fraction of those who are within the healthcare marketplace, but every single American will continue to see their costs go down. And I will note that they already are, and with respect to prescription drug prices. But you look at what the president has done with most favored nations. You've seen these big pharmaceutical companies in the Oval Office saying that this president and his team were nonstop, around the clock, pressuring us and negotiating with us to lower the cost of prescription drugs for Americans. And we are already seeing that to the tune, in some cases, of more than 500%.
That she's just fucking lying. You can't cut a drug price by 500%. If you cut a drug price by 100%, it becomes free.
And we know this is coming from, President Trump saying what he said. And a lot of people in his administration have said it, right? Oh, they're paying half the prices in Europe. They're paying a quarter of the prices in Europe that we're paying in the United States. But still, he makes a great point here. You can't do that. Like, you can't just cut it all the way down to 500%. You can't do nothing like that because you'll make it free. So this is where I thought this is hilarious, because so many things are not being answered here. And so many people are missing, like, what's not being said. And they're just listening to what is being said. And I'm like, man, this is dangerous here.
400% cost decrease would mean that it becomes free, and then the extra 400% is what they would pay you to take their drug. She's just fucking lying when she's not ranting at reporters. Guys, I can say this because I'm not a candidate for office, okay? She is banking that you all and me, she's banking that we, the American people, are so stupid that we're just going to, oh my God, a $500 decrease, oh, look. And unfortunately, there are going to be some people who fall for that shit. But those of us paying attention should know it's mathematically impossible, and it's not happening. We'll do one last clip.
Lower costs of drugs. Josh.
Thank you. The president has called on credit card companies to lower cap rate 10% effective the 20th next week. If they don't do that, What's his? What will he do? What's the threat?
Well, tariffs? No, I'm just kidding. The president certainly has an expectation, Josh, that the credit card companies will do this, just as he did with the pharmaceutical companies, that they will lower costs for American consumers. I don't have a specific consequence to outline for you, but certainly this is an expectation and, frankly, a demand that the president has made.
I just love it. I mean, listen, again, capping interest rates for credit cards is wildly popular, number one. Financially risky, many argue, right? Because many are arguing that would effectively just eliminate the ability of Americans to get credit, okay? But it is extremely popular. And it's also incredibly Marxist, right? I mean, no, seriously, by the Republican standard, right? This is just, once again, they have no fucking principles, folks. I'm telling you, the Democratic Party has got to stop caring what right-wing media and the Republican Party has to say about their policy. They should care only in as much as it, they need to factor it in terms of how they message and how they speak to the American people. But in terms of letting it shape what they do, screw that. When people are, during the next election, when people are like, you're a communist, you want to raise taxes on the rich, that's what communists do. Says, rural conservative voter making $35,000 a year. It's like, bro, you're not a millionaire. You're never going to be a millionaire. What the fuck do you care about liberals taxing the rich to benefit you? It's insane how you guys vote against your interests. Set that aside. It's like Donald Trump is seizing 10% stake in various companies, including Intel. He's ordering pharmaceutical companies to cut their costs. He's threatening credit card companies to, cap their interest rates. You guys are all for communism and Marxism and socialism and a centralized command economy. And we're just going to do whatever the hell we want. We're going to campaign on what we think is best, what we think the American people want, what we think is sound fiscal policy. And you guys go, communism, Marxism, we just don't care anymore because you clearly don't care. And we're not obligated to play by a different set of rules. If you will vote for a man who complains and pisses and moans about communism and Marxism, but then you'll go, yes, sir, you just take control of the economy, sir, and do whatever the hell you want, sir, then you're an unprincipled loser and we don't care what you say. We're going to govern the way we think is best, and by the way, you'll probably benefit from it anyway. So that's what I think. Anyway, Carolyn Leavitt losing her shit on reporters, you'd love to see it. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.
Do not take another meeting until you've tried.
All right, shout out to Pondering Politics. Yeah, man, I just wanted us to watch that just so we can know. Like, I thought it's hilarious. He has his own take on things. I tell you guys all of the time, I'm not easily offended. So I like to watch the left, the right, because as far as I'm concerned, they're both lying to some extent, right? And we got to, as the American people, we got to figure out what they're telling us. Like, what the heck are they saying? So, all right, guys, let's jump to the next clip of the live stream. Shout out to Pondering Politics. You guys go over to his channel and watch his channel when you get a chance. I thought he did a great job there.
President Trump says Greenland is essential to America's national security and future missile defense, especially as Russia and China expand their presence in the Arctic. Joining us now to break down this.
All right, so shout out to Fox Nashville. I just like that they covered this. Let's take a look at some of what they had to say as far as like Greenland, President Trump expanding in the Arctic. I thought they did a decent job here at Fox Nashville, so shout out to them.
Stakes as retired veteran Brigadier General John Tykert. Good morning to you, sir. Great to see you.
Good morning, Jen. Thanks for having me.
How critical is Greenland's location when it comes to missile detection, early warning systems, and this proposed?
And the one reason why I picked this is because probably it was earlier, I think last year, maybe summer of last year, where I had my world map on the live stream. And I was kind of trying to tell everybody that if they take a look at the world map and they look at where Russia is, where Greenland is, right, and then start to look like where the United States is, it makes sense why President Trump has the interest that he has in Greenland, especially when he talks about military personnel being in that particular spot. But let's take a listen here.
Goal, sir, great to see you. Future missile defense, especially as Russia and China expand their presence in the Arctic. Joining us now to break down the stakes is retired veteran Brigadier General John Tykert. Good morning to you, sir. Great to see you.
Good morning, Jen. Thanks for having me.
How critical is Greenland's location when it comes to missile detection, early warning systems, and this proposed Golden Dome, especially as Russia and China expand sort of their footprint there in the Arctic?
Jan, I would encourage your viewers to take a look at our globe from the North Pole looking down, and you'll see that the largest landmass in the Arctic is Greenland. You'll see that it is the choke point for any commerce that would travel in the Arctic Ocean, especially along the north edge of North America. And you'll notice that it is the biggest landmass that is between Russia and the east coast of the United States. All of those reasons make it very geostrategically important. And the good news is that we have very active mechanisms with Greenland and with Denmark that allow us to use that landmass for the benefit of NATO and the United States. We don't need to own it. We just need to use it. We currently have a Space Force base there, and we need to continue to find opportunities for mutual benefit alongside of our allies and partners.
I'm glad you said that's the first thing I did when this all came down. I wanted to see how big it was. It is massive. So great idea to look at it from the North Pole perspective as well. Turning to the Middle East right now, what risks does the violence in Iran pose beyond its borders, especially for American forces and U.S. allies there in the region? And what should and policymakers be keeping a close eye on right now?
Jan, we have about 50,000 Americans that are in the Middle East deployed there in Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, UAE, Qatar, and other locations. And all of those individuals are at risk if Iran makes the decision to launch those ballistic missiles. They probably have about 1,000 of them against U.S. assets in the region. U.S. Central Command is poised currently to defend against any threat that Iran could levy. And right now, that would be an act of desperation by the regime in Iran that indicates that they see the regime falling and they're trying to do whatever they can to shore up support to stop the Ayatollah from having to step down. But I think we're on a pathway now where the regime is at real risk, which means that possibly Iran will do something desperate.
Big day for President Trump right now at the White House, where he's meeting with Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado. How soon should Venezuela realistically, do you think, move toward elections? And what kind of timeline would make sense to stabilize the country?
Jan, right now it seems like the acting president, Rodriguez, is sufficiently compliant to U.S. interests and demands that slowed down the clock a little bit. And Secretary Rubio has talked about a three-phase plan, which is stabilize, recover, and then transition. But it is in the best interest of the United States and the Venezuelan people to accelerate that process towards transition. They had elections in 2024. Gonzalez, who's now in exile in Spain, soundly won those elections. Machado is massively popular, and it legitimizes our activities in Venezuela the more quickly, maybe within the next 6 months, that we can either establish that duly elected government from 2024 or stand up elections as quickly as possible to hit that transition phase that Rubio talks about.
Do you think we can do that without boots on the ground, or do you think some level of military presence is unavoidable? And also, what does success look like for Venezuela in the near future?
Jan, success for the United States looks like they are complying with or aligned with U.S. interests, and there's a duly elected government there in place that meets the will of the Venezuelan people. I firmly believe we do not need U.S. boots.
Shout out to the Brigadier General. He's going to say he doesn't believe we need U.S. boots on the ground, but I'm wondering when he says like a dual government, if he means like the United States and Venezuela to some extent, because President Trump did say that the overseers of it, at least for now, I don't think this has changed, would be Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth, and then along with the vice president, who is now the president over there now in Venezuela. So like I said, we'll see if President Trump keeps that hierarchy. I said I don't think he'll keep it very long. I think he's going to axe the vice president, who's now the president, but we just have to see what happens in the next couple of months here. So shout out to the Brigadier General.
On the ground, especially because that large American armada in the Caribbean is keeping any of the rogue elements of the former regime in check. I think as long as Rodriguez continues to be compliant, then that threat of U.S. force is sufficient, and we won't need U.S. boots on the ground in Venezuela.
How interconnected are these global flashpoints, Greenland, Iran, and Venezuela, when it comes to all of these global security challenges?
Jan, there are real malign actors around the world that wish to do harm to the United States. Russia, China, Iran, North Korea. And probably the greatest linkage that we see in those hotspots today is that we serve and we deter and we can defeat if necessary alongside of a broad and trusting network of allies and partners that we created at the end of World War II, that we have maintained. And we need to take a good look to make sure that we nurture the trusting nature of those allies and partners that uniquely benefit the United States. And I suspect that in any challenge that we face around the globe, we'll need friends alongside of us. We need to make sure they are there alongside of us because we've taken care of them in the good times.
Retired veteran Brigadier General John Teicher. Always great to see you, sir. Thanks for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
You got it. Thanks, Jen.
Hi, my name.
Again, shout out to Brigadier General John Teicher. I think, I like him. I watched some of his stuff on the side, and that's one of the first times I brought him to the channel for you guys. I just love the fact that he pointed out how important the demographics are, because a lot of people aren't paying attention to that. And I'm like, dude, there's a reason why Greenland is such an interest. Yeah, I get it. President Trump, he's taking over everything, and I get that part. But there is some strategy here that's at play that some people just aren't paying attention to. So let's go ahead and jump to the next clip, guys.
And I debated Chris Cuomo on News. We have three major stories in play here: Iran, ICE, and Denmark. And they're all very, very different. But President Trump's future hinges upon those three stories at this moment, and the economy as well. Okay, Iran. So right now, the Pentagon has worked up a number of military engagements there. It's just a matter of Mr. Trump's order. I don't know what they are. Nobody does. It's top secret. They've walled it off. There's no leaks. We don't know. I did talk to the president personally on Saturday, and I said, in my opinion, because I was asked, okay, I wouldn't use military action unless it's a tipping point. You don't need to send any more messages. You already did that with the nuke bombing. But if you can get them out of there, Mr. President, the mullahs, you can get them on that flight to Moscow by, say, wiping out the Revolutionary Guard headquarters, I'd do it in a heartbeat. Got to get them out. And I believe it will happen. I think the mullahs are done. And that'll be a tremendous victory for the USA and the world. But I could be wrong. But anyway, the actions have been drawn up. We don't know when, where, we don't know. And it could happen at any time. Remember, Tehran, the capital of Iran, is 8.5 hours ahead of us. And this is not going to be a daylight action. These are going to be under the cloak of darkness. And so I'm going to be on it for the next, whenever it takes, watching. I check it every 30 minutes because all hell could break loose at any time. But again, I do believe the mullahs are done, and I really hope that's true. Okay, the second is ICE, which this is very interesting. The protests against ICE are not organic, as they say. It's not like everybody's running to the streets like Vietnam or anything like that. These are very well organized, far left generated protests. And the nexus, of course, is in Minneapolis, where Ms. Good was shot dead by an ICE agent last week. But this has not caught on across the country, even though there are 10 states in active rebellion against the federal government, which I write about in my column on BillO'Reilly.com. Okay? This is a rebellion. It's not a protest. There's a big difference. Okay? They are refusing to obey the law. Now, the third one is Denmark. And I'm going to just take a little time at the end of the talking points to explain the danger for Donald Trump here. This is the most dangerous story, Denmark, not ICE, not Iran, Denmark, and Greenland. That's the most dangerous for him. Now, getting back to Iran, there are, even before any military action, liberal Americans, Democrats, who say, well, you can't keep doing this. You can't keep going into Venezuela and grabbing a dictator there and then you go and get the mullahs out of there. You need Congress to approve all this. And I debated Chris Cuomo on News Nation last night about that subject. Go.
Let's cover 10 pro tips for working with the Cursor agent. So I've got Cursor open and my agent on the right. And
let me ask you something else, though. Iran, I don't understand the legitimate basis in law for any president to say, ooh, this regime, they're bad. I don't like what they're doing to their people. I think I'll use the military and not have to go through Congress. How can the president do that in Iran?
Under the national security banner. Because Iran, and we saw that with Soleimani when Trump took him out with a drone.
In Iran.
Under the national security banner. Because Iran, and we saw that with Soleimani when Trump took him out with a drone. I wrote about that in my book, Killing the Killers. Iran continues to fund worldwide terrorism and gives them billions of dollars, billions with a B. That's a national security threat to the United States. So under national security, if you can neutralize somebody like Soleimani or ISIS, as Trump did with the assistance of Barack Obama, you can do it without congressional approval. And that's what he'll use. And that's true. So the Democrats can jump up and down, they can sue, they can do this, they can do that. The president has the authority, based upon what happened after 9/11, to take out national security threats without getting permission. And he has. All right, that's what he's doing. It's all about national security. Drug dealing into the United States, massive amounts of narcotics, national security. Okay? Mullah's funding Hezbollah, Hamas, all the terror groups, national security. Courts aren't going to go against that at the higher level. The partisan courts will, but not up in the Supreme Court or even the appeals courts. Okay. Now let's get to Greenland. So today there's a meeting, closed door, and we don't have anything yet, and I might break. If it does, I'll tweet about it, at Bill O'Reilly. So important you keep us on the band. So we don't know yet, but we know obviously a hard-led meeting. Vice President's there, Vance, and Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, are meeting with the Danish Foreign Minister and his Greenland counterpart. Now, I fully expect them to work out some kind of deal, because if the United States invades Greenland with troops, which is, I can't imagine that would ever happen. I said that to President Trump. I said, this would fracture the NATO alliance. You can't do that. Putin would be a winner, because all the European and NATO countries that turn against the United States, every single one of them. Maybe Hungary wouldn't, but that's it. You can't. And then the United States, American people don't want.
So this is why even when people don't like Bill O'Reilly, I still play him, because I still think he has great clips, and I think he does great takes. Like, literally, some people are like, this guy's a dinosaur. I can't believe Bill's still alive. And I'm trying not to laugh in the chat, because somebody said it earlier. But to what he's saying, it's very true. It's like everyone would turn. And the fact that he said maybe not hungry, I was surprised. But then, I mean, if you look at the history, I'm like, yeah, probably not hungry. But the fact that he says everyone, it really is a reality check for the United States. So I'm just going to go back a little bit, because I just think that was a great take, and then we'll just keep going forward. And also, I bring Chris Cuomo to the channel often. Here's the only thing that bothers me about Chris sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, Chris, why such an adolescent question? Like, he's like, how can he do this without going to Congress, without evoking Congress? And Bill O'Reilly just calmly answers the question. And that's why I just rewinded it really quick for anyone who's new to the channel who just jumped in and they didn't hear it. It's like, dude, the president does not have to go to Congress for every single thing. Like, you have to understand that. Like, yes, Congress is a big deal in some aspects, but if he had to go to Congress for everything, then there would be no use for him. He would have no power at all. He doesn't have to go to Congress for everything, and I just like that Bill O'Reilly. He points that out. Some people, when they do their journalism, they don't just teach small lessons as if Gen Z is still learning this stuff in school, and they're not. Like, they're not learning history the way that the last 2 generations before them did in school.
Because if the United States invades Greenland with troops, which is, I can't imagine that would ever happen. I said that to President Trump. I said, this would fracture the NATO alliance. You can't do that. Putin would be a winner. Because all the European and NATO countries that turn against the United States, every single one of them. Maybe Hungary wouldn't, but that's it. You can't. And then the United States, American people don't want the U.S. military in Greenland. Every single poll shows that. And Republicans don't want it either. And then Congress, my God, they'll go crazy. And that would tilt it against the Republicans in the midterm. So there is a bill introduced by Lisa Murkowski, who's supposedly a Republican, but she's really not, and Senator Jeanne Shaheen in New Hampshire, that says you can't do this. You can't invade Greenland with U.S. troops. Now, that's going to pass the Senate. That bill is going to pass, and it might pass the House of Representatives. Now, Trump could veto it, but you can see the unbelievable deficit that President Trump would create for himself and the Republican Party. He doesn't have to do it. You know, I'm a cocky guy. You guys all know that. I said, look, send me over to Copenhagen. I'll come back with any deal you want in 48 hours. And I would. It's not that hard to get military bases up there. I've had them there in the past. Denmark's not going to object to that. Mineral rights, we can get them.
Yeah, I don't think that they would reject that either. Like, and that's just the history there. I mean, one gentleman said that, you know, there is already a U.S. presence here, a U.S. military presence here. So I'm not really sure what the push is for. But I just went on record to say there's really not. Like, if at one point in time we had 10,000 U.S. troops there, and now we're down to under 200, about 200. If at one time we had 18 military bases there, and now we're down to, I think they have one active base. I wouldn't say that there's a United States military presence there. I would say that they have United States military friendlies in their region, but I wouldn't say that they have a presence there. So yeah, at this point, if Russia or China wanted it, there wouldn't be anything that Denmark could do, right? There wouldn't be anything that America could do because we don't have a presence there. We just have a couple of friendlies there, and based on those numbers, they could literally take all our friendlies. Like, they could just make them all POWs, which would be bad for Russia and China, but nonetheless, it's something that they could do.
We don't need to put military boots on the ground there. So anyway, I expect the deal would be worked out. I'd be shocked if President Trump ever sends U.S. military to Greenland. This is his negotiating ploy. Huff and puff and blow the house down, and then we'll get a deal. That's what he always does. But this one's very dangerous. And that's the memo. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe.
So I just happen to like Bill O'Reilly's take on that because I didn't think a lot of people were pointing that out. You know, it's not a very big deal about Venezuela in the sense where, you know, no one thought that by President Trump doing this. Sure, were people taken back by it? Of course, some people were. A little overzealous, maybe to some, not to everyone. But you didn't hear too much of this about Venezuela, right? And that's probably because Maduro was a horrible dictator. But when it comes to Greenland, I just thought it was interesting that Bill O'Reilly said this would be really bad for him to do. Like, I don't see any reason why he would need to put military boots on the ground there. And then when he started to break down the fact that we've already had so much presence there in the past and that Denmark wouldn't push against it, I started to see, like, yeah, I can see how this could be bad for President Trump. I mean, we hear him in the media right now saying something's going to be done about Greenland, whether they like it or not, right? So he's going to do what he wants to do. But I think it's something to what Bill O'Reilly's saying when he's like, this is his strategy. You know, I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow the house down. But this is how he strategically, you know, makes a deal, whether we like it or not. All right, guys, let's jump to the next clip.
Here's to the go-getters. And not just the ones in the gym.
All right, the mysterious $45 million in Byron Donalds' pocket. Shout out to Tucker Carlson. Byron Donalds is someone who I like. I follow him. I thought this was interesting. I cannot play all of this, so I encourage you guys to go over to TCN, Tucker Carlson's network, and watch the rest of this. Tucker is very strict about his content, so if the audio sounds like kind of robotic, a little spacey, I'm doing that on purpose for copyright reasons. And also, I will not play a lot of this clip because Tucker's strict with his content. So YouTube will clip me real fast. So we're going to watch probably about, let me see how far I went into this clip. Oh, I rewinded it. Okay, I rewinded it, but I think I went about 3 minutes in. So we're probably only going to go about 3 minutes in. And that's probably where we need to land at for what they were talking about. And then I want you guys to head over to TCN and watch the rest.
What I have said, Executive Order. Miriam Adelson is spending against you. Yes. And she's backing Byron. And that's why you call him Apex Shakur? Among other reasons. It's the second part of it for other reasons. I wouldn't call Randy Apex Shakur. That is just too funny. How has he responded to Apex Shakur? Well, his campaign called me racist. Not for that comment, because I called him a slave to his donors. Yeah. And I said, with all due respect, I'll stop calling you a slave if you give the money back. The $45 million you gave to your donor, that your donors gave you. $45 million? $45 million in a primary that was uncontested until 5 weeks ago. No way. $45 million in an uncontested primary until 5 weeks ago, until I entered. And that was all to encourage him to make Florida better? Apparently. And his idea of making Florida better, in his own words, he wants to, quote, speed up the construction of AI data centers. His words. He said in a private meeting with donors, I have a friend of mine who was there, and he said, what do you think about Fishback's proposal to ban Blackstone from buying single-family homes and forcing us to rent as opposed to own? And what Byron told the donor in that meeting is that Blackstone bailed the economy. They saved us in the financial crisis. They deserve to be able to buy those homes. That's capitalism. That was his response. And I say, look, the goal here is we need to look out for our own people. When a family of four is getting outbid by $1,500 by a private equity firm that's taking Chinese money at the capital gains rate, as opposed to the rate that you and I pay and everyone else pays. They pay half the tax. They pay half. Carried interest. 20%. And he thinks that because of what Blackstone did, which they didn't actually do, what Blackstone allegedly did in 2008 gives them cover to run roughshod over all of us and to take homes from under our feet. And this is not a hypothetical thing. This is happening right now. Byron said that? Byron said that to a donor. Because what I have said, Executive Order number.
So here's where I was messed up. Like, his response, like, to speed up the AI centers, I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, Byron. First of all, I want to say that I didn't expect that from him. But I don't know, maybe some of you that watch him more than me, I don't think you do, but maybe some of you that do might be like, no, like Byron would say that. I wasn't expecting that. And then just some of the stuff that he was saying about Blackstone, I'm like, okay, this sounds really interesting now, right? So, and then we're talking about the 45 million. Listen, everyone wants to think like, oh, the Democrats are the only party that steals money. The Democrats are the only party that does illegal things. It's like, no, it's both parties that do it.
3 is that I would ban Blackstone, any private equity firm, any Airbnb speculator, and any foreign national from buying a single family home in this state of Florida. You don't get to have a right to our homes. If you or I were to go to Canada right now and buy a single family home, we would legally be prohibited from doing so. Because say what you want about Trudeau or Carney, I guess they got the memo that Canada is for Canadians. America's for Americans. And I don't think it's okay that a Chinese national, a Russian national, or an Israeli national can come here and outbid a family that's known this state for 2-3 generations and say, you know what, that home that you wanted to buy to get married to your wife and to have 3 kids, that's not available anymore because a foreign national wants to vacation here for 5 weeks out of the year.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I totally agree with this. So you guys go over to TCN, Tucker Carlson Network, and you watch the rest of that. But that foreign nationals, like when he talked about a family being outbid by something like that, I can't disagree there. That's why he said, say what you want about Trudeau or Carney. They got the memo that Canada's for Canadians. Yeah, there's no way. Like, if you want to come over here and if we did want to sell them land or property, I guess. But there's no way that they should be outbidding someone who's already a U.S. citizen. Now, that I can't. There's no way that I'd be okay with that. And I don't see how any of you guys could, or anybody would, any American citizen for that matter. It's like, we can't do that, right? You can't just go. And Americans, this is where we're so naive, we're so gullible, because the things that we allow people to come here to do, we literally cannot go to other countries and do these things. That's why I was so happy when he talked about just a country like Canada. He could have said someplace like Russia or, Korea or something, but he literally just said Canada. He's like, we can't even go to Canada and do something like that, right? Because we're not allowed to, because we're not Canadians. And I just think that there's something to that. Even if at some point you are allowed to purchase, I don't think that you should ever be able to outbid someone who's definitely been in that country 2 to 3, 4 generations, and you're not a citizen. That's absolute crazy work. All right, guys, let's go over to the next clip.
There's a video that's trending about a doctor that gets asked a very simple question. Do you think that men can get pregnant? And she absolutely refuses to answer this question. And I found that pretty funny, because people who trust and believe in science are always looking to find the truth in everything. But when it comes down to these questions, they will go as far as they can to not speak the truth. And I believe that the Bible talks about this when it speaks about being deceived and going on and deceiving others, okay? Let's hop into this video, watch it, and react to it. Before we do me a quick favor. Hit that like button for the algorithm so that this video can reach more people like yourself. I truly appreciate you guys. Let's hop in.
Do you think that men can get pregnant?
I hesitated there because I wasn't sure where the conversation was going or what the goal was. I mean, I do take care of patients with different identities. I take care of many women. I take care of people with different identities. And so that's where I paused. I think, I wasn't sure where you were going with that.
Well, the goal is just the truth. So can men get pregnant?
Again, the reason I paused there is I'm not really sure what the goal of the question is.
The goal is just to establish a biological reality. You just said a moment ago that science and evidence should control, not politics. Absolutely. So let's just test that proposition. Can men get pregnant?
I take care of people with many identities, but
can men get pregnant?
Many women that can get pregnant. I do take care of people that don't identify as women.
Can men get pregnant?
Again, as I'm saying,
let me just remind you testified to a moment ago. Science and evidence should control, not politics. So can men get pregnant? You're a doctor. I think.
Science and evidence should guide medicine.
Do science and evidence tell us that men can get pregnant? Biological men, can they get pregnant?
I also think yes/no questions like this are a political tool. And
no, yes/no questions are about the truth, doctor. Let's not make a mockery of this proceeding. This is about science and evidence. So I'm asking you. The United States Supreme Court just heard arguments yesterday at great length on this question. This is not a hypothetical question. This is not theoretical. It affects real people in their real lives. And you're here as an expert, called by the other side as an expert. And you've been telling us that you follow, right, you're a doctor, and you follow the science and the evidence. So I just want to know, based on the science, can men get pregnant?
If you're watching this right now, I pray that you don't just scroll past. I hope that when your heart hears.
That's a yes or no question. Really?
Bro, I'm cooked. I didn't know where Aaron was going to go with this video, but I should have known because Lucas reacted to it too. Shout out to the amazing Lucas. Then I'm thinking to myself like, yo, we're really having this hard time answering this question. Just tell that man if he can have a baby or not. Like, what's the problem? Tell that man that's asking you that question if he can get pregnant. It is a yes or no question. Just tell that man if another man can impregnate him. That's all he wants to know.
Is, I think.
I think you're trying to reduce the complexity of a lot.
I'm not. I'm trying to get, it's not complex. I'm trying to get to an answer, and I'm trying to test, frankly, your veracity as a medical professional and as a scientist. Can men get pregnant?
I think you're also conflating
This is
male
extraordinary.
male with...
No, I'm not conflating male and female. They're two different things. There's biological men and there's biological women. And I want to know, can men get pregnant?
What you were talking about is biological...
You're not going to answer my question.
Biological male.
I don't know the guy's name. I think he's a senator or something along those lines. I'm not 100%.
This is Senator Josh Hawley. That's who it is. I just think, dude, I can't stop laughing because I'm not laughing at his Josh Hawley. Like, Senator Hawley, he's like this in his Senate hearings. I just think it's hilarious how she's struggling with answering this question. Like, I'm like, we're being dead serious right now. Go ahead and tell that man that he can get pregnant. Just say, yes, sir, you can get pregnant. That's all you have to do.
Sure. But I can be almost certain that he is, I'm like 98% sure he's probably a Christian, right? Or he believes in God and I would say Christian, because it seems like today only Christians are able to answer this question without distorting the truth at all. It seems like only people that believe in God are able to answer this question and say yes or no. Anyone else is doing what she's doing. They're dancing around the question because they don't want to face the reality that there are no other genders. There are no other types of individuals. There's only male, female, men, women. It's the same thing. Social constructs doesn't matter. None of that matters. The truth is the truth. I like what he said. This is crazy, man.
This isn't hard, doctor. Can men get pregnant?
Over 8,000 men have permanently broken free from the P word by watching one single video training that you can actually watch by clicking the link.
Yes or no?
I would be more than happy to have a conversation with you that is not coming from a place of trying to be polarized and push.
I'm not trying to be polarizing. I'm trying to ask. I think it is extraordinary that we are here and hearing about science and about women. And for the record, it's women who get pregnant, not men. We are here about the safety of women and science that shows that this abortion drug causes adverse health events in...
I think it's hilarious that he has to tell a gynecologist, right? Because you guys did see that was one of her titles. And this is the reason why I'm cracking up, because I'm like, really? So you don't... Okay, whatever. I digress. I was going to say something. But yeah, I just think it's funny that he has to tell a gynecologist, hey, by the way, women get pregnant, not men.
11% of cases. That's 22 times greater than the FDA label. Another fact you haven't acknowledged. And yet you won't even acknowledge the basic reality that biological men don't get pregnant. There's a difference between biological men and biological women. I don't know how we can take you seriously and your claims to be a person of science if you won't level with us on this basic issue. I thought we were past all of this, frankly. I can't believe we're still here talking about this.
I am a person of science, and I'm also someone here who's here to represent the complex experiences of my patients, and I don't think polarized language or questions serve that goal. I don't think they serve the American people.
It is not polarizing to say that there is a scientific difference between men and women. And I want this to be clear and for the record. It is not polarizing to say that women are a biological reality and should be treated and protected as such. That is not polarizing, that is truth. It is also, by the way, the United States Constitution, which offers unique protections to women in a variety of circumstances as women. And your refusal to recognize women as women and men as men is deeply corrosive to science, to public trust, and yes, to constitutional protections for women as women. And I think it's extraordinary that you would sit here and advance a political agenda that has been thoroughly discredited and rejected by the American people in this forum. And I'm glad we had this exchange because it's exceptionally clarifying and it's also in many ways quite depressing.
Okay, so I was 100% right. It says right here, while Josh Hawley identifies as an evangelical Protestant, he was educated at the Jesuit all-boys Rockhurst High School in Kansas, Missouri. Kansas City, Missouri. So he is an evangelical Protestant. He believes in God, Jesus Christ, just like we all do. And like I said, it's, to me at least, it seems like the only people that can answer this question or these type of questions in all honesty with no type of hidden agenda, no type of beating around the bush, trying to dance around the question, is Christians. And it's because we understand the truth. There's no reason to lie about this. If you're a man, you have men organs, systems, and stuff like that. And if you're a woman, it's the other ones, right? And we have scientific evidence that shows XX, XY. You can't change who you are because of what you feel like, honestly. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. I cannot just change and be a Mexican. I can't change and be a dog. I can't change and be rich. You can't change who you are because you feel like something else. That doesn't make sense. And it's really astonishing how we have so many people in America that are smart and have years and years of college, but they can't answer a simple question like this because their emotions and their feelings.
Aaron, they can answer it. They're just deceived. But I know Aaron knows that. Like, shout out to Aaron Page, one of my favorite content creators to watch, especially when it comes to me bringing you guys Christian content. Just deception is crazy, bro. Like, the level of deception is insane to me. It's like, of course the question can be answered. The lady has education. She just doesn't want to answer it. She doesn't want to answer it because she wants to remain... even though she says this is being used as a political tool, right? She wants to remain politically correct to some extent, right? Because there is some side of politics she's pandering to. It's just the left. So she doesn't want to say, no, Senator Hawley, men cannot, in fact, get pregnant. That's all she had to say, but then she upsets her buddies on the radical left. So, of course, she's not going to answer the question.
Get in the way. Okay, this is 2 Timothy. It says... In fact, everyone who wants to live a godly life in Christ Jesus will be persecuted, while evildoers and imposters will go from bad to worse, deceiving and being deceived. I think that's exactly what's taking place here. I think that people are being deceived into thinking that this is normal.
Thank you for reading that, Aaron. I tell you guys all of the time, I don't always get to watch all the clips that I want to share with you guys on the live stream, but sometimes I do. I did not watch this clip by Aaron in its entirety today. And see, I started talking about deception and I didn't know that he was going to go there. He usually does pull up a Bible verse, but I didn't know what he was going to pull up. But that's all it is. It's literally just deception. It's ridiculous. She can answer the question. She just does not want to answer the question.
And that others are deceiving. And that's exactly what's taking place in this situation, because we all, like that doctor, I guarantee when she goes home and lays on her bed and turns on TV, she is not calling men on TV women and women on TV men that she's watching. She's not, her shows, she's going to see women and men. She's going to call them exactly what they are. If she has a husband, if her husband asks her, is there a unique difference between women and men? She's going to answer the question in all honesty. If he says, can men get pregnant? She's going to say no. But she's putting on this front in front of the media because she's a doctor and she doesn't want to lose clients or look like a doctor that is speaking the truth regardless of how people feel. So she's going to play her part, which I think is foolish on her part. She's going to play the part and tell them what they want to hear. It says, but as for you, continue in what you have learned and have become convinced of, because you know those from whom you learned it. And the Bible tells us exactly what the difference is between a man and a woman. The Bible tells us that men shouldn't dress like women, women shouldn't dress like men. The Bible gives us specific roles as a man and a woman, but society wants to change that because they're influenced by Satan. They're influenced by demons, and they have no idea. They cannot see it. They cannot feel it. But they're being swifted or being moved and swayed in different directions because they don't have Jesus Christ and the knowledge of Jesus Christ and from the Bible and from the Holy Spirit inside of them. And so that's just what it is, y'all. That's just what it is. Look, let me know how you guys feel about this video in the comment section, okay? If you're new to the channel and you like what you see, I encourage you to hit that subscribe button and hit the post notification bell so you do not miss another video. My name's Aaron Page. I'll catch y'all on the next video. Until next time, I'm out.
Shout out to Aaron Page. I appreciate that. Deception. That's exactly what it is. And the only reason why I wanted to play that is because the amazing Lucas reacted to it too. And I actually want to play Lucas's clip, but I just wanted to play Aaron's first because I just thought it was interesting, like just his perspective and how he's going to come at it from a biblical standpoint. We know Lucas is going to do it from a much funnier standpoint. But I just wanted us to take a look at that because that's all it is, just deception. It is a very easy question, and even Lucas has that in his thumbnail. So let's go take a look at that.
Embarrassing. This is embarrassing. Oh my goodness. So there was a Senate hearing today regarding the safety and regulation of abortion pills. Now, the stage is set, okay, between the right and left. We know how they think. When it comes to the right, they want to federally ban abortion. Anything and everything to do with abortion, okay? They don't want women to vote. They don't want women to have a choice. They don't want abortion pills. They don't want nothing. They don't want sex ed. They want nothing. They want a whole bunch of white babies running around, regardless if they have a family, regardless if they have a dad, a mom. That's what they want. And then when they try and go and get snapped, they want to deny it. Damn. So that's what the right wants. Now, when it comes to the left, I've seen fringes of the left where they're like, hey, the day of, they should be allowed to get an abortion. They should be allowed to yeet the baby, okay? Yeet the fetus. There are those people, okay? There's a spectrum on both sides, okay? That being said, the problem that we have is before we even get to, unplanned pregnancies, pro-choice, pro-life, we have to understand who can get pregnant. I know. That's where we are right now, just so we're clear. So naturally, during this hearing, it is asked upon this doctor, Dr. Verma. She was brought up by the Democrats. And it was asked upon Dr. Verma by Senator Moody as, hey, can men get pregnant?
Ms. Verma, can men get pregnant? Dr. Verma, I just want to make sure we're
Dr. Verma, can men get pregnant? As a doctor, give me your opinion. As a doctor, can men get pregnant?
Now, listen, it is 2026, y'all. Okay, it's 2026.
See, now, this is why I wanted to play Lucas, because he did it from a different perspective. So I didn't know Senator Moody asked the same question. And now she sets herself up even more bad in this situation, right? It's even worse here because she goes, doctor, right? She literally corrects the lady. She goes, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. It's doctor. Now the lady says, okay, so as a doctor, I would like your opinion. Can men get pregnant? This is just bad.
2026. If you can't answer that question as fast and as swiftly and as easily as 1 + 1, we got a problem. Beta! Okay, we have a serious freaking problem because the answer is no. It's not yes. It's not It's not you golly. It's not what do you mean by that? The answer is no. Men cannot get pregnant. I, a man, cannot get pregnant. Okay? Whether you believe in evolution, whether you believe in design, that there's a God, I can't get pregnant. End of story. This doctor, all right, by the Democrats, doesn't respond. It's almost like you asked her, hey, give me the full sequence of pi. I'll help you. 3.14, finish the rest, right? She's just like, she's stumped by this question.
As a doctor, give me your opinion. As a doctor, can men get pregnant? I mean, I'll move on to the next one.
Everybody. Bro, come on. Like, people in the courtroom are laughing. Like, that's why I'm just like, dude, what are we doing here? Like, this is crazy. And this is what I'm saying. Like, Lucas presents fairly moderate. You know what I'm saying? Like, he might say he's on the left. I would say maybe he probably say he was on the left. I think he could be, like, left more, a little bit more moderate. But, dude, like, come on here. Like, this is ridiculous right now. Like, how is this a hard question? I don't understand. Like...
knows you never know a full retard.
Naturally, Moody goes on to ask the other people on the panel, hey, can men get pregnant? No. Can men get pregnant? No. Simple, right? Very simple.
Doctor, can men get pregnant?
The online energy medicine training is a profound online...
No. I know you're a lawyer, an AG, like I was an AG. Can men get pregnant? No.
Listen, Democrats, if this is the route you want to take, okay, you can go ahead and take that route, but you will lose the midterms, all right? Given all the nonsense that everyone has had to deal with when it comes to Trump, if y'all are telling people that men can get pregnant in 2026, we don't care, bro, all right? We'll let the country crumble before we start having people tell other people that men can get pregnant, okay? That's embarrassing.
Yeah, you see, so even if Lucas would say he's left, he wouldn't say he's radical left, because I feel like a radical left would be over there with the loony saying something like, oh, well, that can't answer the question. And this is what I'm talking about. He's flat out, I love it because he's just flat out blatant with them. And he says, if y'all Democrats, if y'all are telling people in 2026 that men can get pregnant, you're going to lose the midterms. We don't even have to really look at the midterms. It's going to happen.
That is foolishness. So it then progresses. And we have Josh Hawley. Now, Josh Hawley is a POS. He's a clown, right? That's what he is. But as a clown, even he knows what 1 + 1 is. So he then asks the doctor again, can men get pregnant?
Why don't we just start there? Dr. Verma, I wasn't sure I understood your answer to Senator Moody a moment ago. Do you think that men can get pregnant?
I hesitated there because I wasn't sure where the conversation was going or what the goal was. I mean, I do take care of patients with different identities. I take care of many women. I take care of people with different identities. And so that's where I paused. I think...
You are a fucking idiot.
And he even adds biological. Hey, biologically speaking, can men get pregnant?
Does science and evidence tell us that men can get pregnant? Biological men, can they get pregnant?
I also think yes-no questions like this are a political tool. And
no, yes-no questions are about the truth, doctor. Let's not make a mockery of this.
And this is how we know, right? Because I don't think that she was insinuating he's doing that on purpose. I think she did. She said that knowingly, right? She said, this is why I don't want to answer this because yes-no questions. And it's like, oh, so you know this is a yes or no question. So then why are you not answering it? Why are we going around the mulberry bush? Can men get pregnant? Like, you know this is a yes or no question. So why are you not answering it, doctor?
This is about science and evidence. So I'm asking you, the United States Supreme Court just heard arguments yesterday at great length on this question. This is not a hypothetical question. This is not theoretical. It affects real people in their real lives. And you're here as an expert, called by the other side as an expert. And you've been telling us that you that you follow, right, you're a doctor, and you follow the science and the evidence. So I just want to know, based on the science, can men get pregnant? That's a yes or no question. It really is, I think.
I think you're trying to reduce the complexity of a lot.
I'm not. I'm trying to get, it's not complex. I'm trying to get to an answer, and I'm trying to test, frankly, your veracity as a medical professional and as a scientist. Can men get pregnant?
I think you're also conflicted.
See, and then I think, here's what I think. Here's what I know. If I had a doctor that, if I went into the room and the doctor told me, like if me and my doctor were getting to know each other, and he told me that he thought, or she told me that she thought that men could get pregnant, I would be like, this appointment's over. That's exactly what I think. Like that. So I understand why he's trying to test her veracity as a doctor, because you probably shouldn't be a doctor if you think that men can get pregnant. So I totally understand why he's doing this.
Blading
This is extraordinary.
Stop it. Get some help.
This doctor, this clown, starts humming and hawing. Well, I'm very confused by your line of questioning. What do you mean by that? And this and this. Listen, bro, I don't know what to tell you all, bro. And listen, I'm very well aware of the whole trans belief and everything, because it makes no damn sense. And I'm not saying that to attack trans people or anything like that. But you have to understand what they told us. Listen, this was the message. Hey, I was born a man, but I feel like a woman. Now, nobody, no, we question that. What you mean you were born like a woman? How do you know what a woman feels like? What are you talking about, right? But we let that slide, right? We're like, okay, I get it. You feel like you were in the wrong body. You want to transition. Gotcha, understand. Because what they want to say, well, you have to understand that sex and gender are two different things, okay? You can be biologically a man, but your gender be female. That's what it can be. All right, people let that slide. They let that slide. You already conceded on, people being born gay and, gay marriage. So y'all like, all right, I get it, born that way. Got you. These mofos is talking about, well, I'm a man, but I can get pregnant. Hold up. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You are a woman, right? And you suffer from gender dysphoria. You believe that, hey, due to the societal norms of what a man and a woman is, that didn't really click with you. That being a woman didn't really click with you. That you were more of a man, all right? And then you transitioned to a man. Well, upon you transitioning to a man, guess what, boo-boo? You can't get pregnant. All right? That's not how that works. So your uterus should go bye-bye. All that down there should go bye-bye. You should have the junk, the gear, and the equipment that of a man. And as a man who's been a man since his birth, okay, I will tell you, I can't get...
Let's cover 10 pro tips for working with the Cursor agent. So I've got Cursor open and my agent on the right. And
pregnant.
He's out of line, but he's right.
I ain't got no uterus.
I can't help but to laugh at this, because I promise you that I got friends that'll be like, I can't get pregnant. Like my guy friends, they'll be like, I can't get pregnant. I promise you I tried and it didn't work. Like literally I got friends that's their personality. So like when Lucas is reacting like this, I totally understand where this type of reaction is coming from, because he's like, hold up. Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about?
I ain't got no ovaries. I ain't got no eggs. That's not how it works. But it seems that these people want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to freaking have like a hometown buffet of like the human body. They want to, I want a man, but I want to be a woman, but I'm also lesbian. It's like, you're a man, but you're a trans woman, but you're also lesbian. What? We're flying to Philadelphia. Oh, hell no! Pimpin', you're a heterosexual man. What are you talking about? What are we doing here, bro? You doing all this to go back full circle. It doesn't make any sense, but because they always complicate things. Well, you have to understand, I'm a man. I was born a man, but I'm a woman now. But I'm a lesbian woman, so I date women. But how I come off as far as my gender expression is that of a masculine woman.
Are you retarded?
Bro, I'm dead. He said I'm a lesbian woman. I'm like, what is that? Like, that's so stupid.
And it's like, it doesn't make any sense, but because they always complicate things. Well, you have to understand, I'm a man. I was born a man, but I'm a woman now. But I'm I'm a lesbian woman, so I date women. But how I come off, as far as my gender expression, is that of a masculine woman. Are you retarded? And it's like, what? You can switch it up. By all means, if it makes you feel better that you, I don't know, whatever it is, you want to do hometown buffet with your gender and sex and all that, go ahead. But when we talking about abortion, right? Women can only have abortions. like, are we really extending women's rights to men? To biological men? Is that what we're going on with? I mean, this is where we're getting, we've had this out in LA, where you've had a biological man in the women's spa.
LA County DA's office has filed charges against the person accused of indecent exposure in a women's locker room at a Los Angeles spa. You may remember the incident back in June touched off protests outside the We Spa in Koreatown over transgender rights. Police identified the person involved as 52-year-old Darren Morager of Riverside County. Morager, who has been a registered sex offender since 2006, now faces 5 felony counts of indecent exposure.
They're mentally off the rocker. It just is what it is. They even acknowledge that. You do understand it is not normal. It is not normal whatsoever. It's very abnormal for you, whether you say is sex and gender are different, but it's very abnormal for you not to identify with the sex and the gender you were assigned with at birth. That is abnormal, okay? Less than 1%. I want you to understand this. Less than 1% of the entire population has this abnormality, has this feeling. Now, we have been, as a society, we have been, accepting of these people. We have been tolerant of these people. But now, when you start saying that men can get abortions, bro, you losing people. You going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, bro. Now you, it is what it is. You allowing me and the basketball team with the other women on the female basketball team. I would love to see a man go on the WNBA. I think that would be hilarious. But once again, I'm not a woman, so this is all at their, demise. It's all jokes to me. But once we start getting down this road, bruh, when you can't even answer a question, can men get pregnant?
And yet you won't even acknowledge the basic reality that biological men don't get pregnant. There's a difference between biological men and biological women. I don't know how we can take you seriously and your claims to be a person of science.
I'm telling you, and this is real. Like, this is not even him trying to disrespect her. Shout out to the chat. Like, Bruno said, they need to take her credentials to practice medicine away. I said, dude, a lot of people feel like that. Because it's like, are we really struggling with this type of question? Like, we get you pandering to the radical left, but let's just be for real for like 5 seconds in court right now.
If you won't level with us on this basic issue, I thought we were past all of this, frankly. I can't believe we're still here talking about this.
I am a person of science, and I'm also someone here who's here to represent the complex experiences of my patients, and I don't think polarized language or questions serve that goal. I don't think they serve the American people.
Not.
You've lost the plot. I'm all about being accepting and welcoming and progressive, but you've lost the plot, bruh. All right, you all saw how Kamala Harris lost the election. She lost the election off of this, okay? Off of this position, off of that commercial, that ad that Trump ran, Kamala Harris is for they, then I'm for you. So Democrats, if you want to forego 99.9% of the population for that 1%, you go right ahead. Anyways, guys, that's the video. Let me know what you guys think. There's no let me know what.
Like Lucas said, it'll be to your demise. You guys can head over to his channel and watch the rest of that. I appreciate you guys hanging out on the live stream with me. I will be back in a couple hours for the daily live stream on Friday. You guys take care of yourselves. Until later on, take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. Love yourselves. Love one another. Be peaceful. Tell somebody about Jesus. Until later on. Peace.